My co-presenter, Eric Geithner, covered the If You Build It part of our title, and I'm going to pick up with the They Will Come part. So I will cover the types of content that we share in our IR, as well as how we promote this resource and service, because it's both, and educate our community about it. But first, let me give you some context. Gettysburg College is a small, private liberal arts college. We have about 2,600 students. All of them are undergraduate. We launched our repository, which is called The Cupola, in 2012. I have a picture of our historic building, Pennsylvania Hall, there with the cupola on top. That's an iconic image on our campus. There were a few catalysts that contributed to the IR launch. First, there was a growing campus interest in showcasing undergraduate research. We got a Mellon grant to develop our research program, and as part of that, we began having an annual colloquium of undergraduate research called Celebration, and that started in 2009. All along, the library was interested in capturing the student work that was presented there because we felt it represented the best of the best. Also, a high-quality hosted solution became available. We don't have an IT department in our library, and our campus IT culture doesn't embrace open source solutions, so we knew we would need a hosted product. Digital Commons was well developed by 2011, and our library director was very interested in the possibilities. And finally, we got a new provost in 2010, and he was very supportive. So at that juncture, our library director chose the bPress platform for our IR. We do not have an open access mandate on our campus or, of course, in Pennsylvania. So our experience is more bottom up than top down. So the library's initial vision for the IR was pretty straightforward. We bought a great hosted product and we were going to put stuff in it. What would go in? Well, we planned to include the very best student works, like those presented at Celebration, and on the faculty side, we figured we would include scholarly and creative works. We assumed that these would be previous publications from peer-reviewed journals and books, mostly, and we hoped to be able to obtain copyright permission to share them openly. How would we get the content in? Well, that's fairly easy with a hosted product, right? It is, it really is, but there are still a lot of details to work out. The first one has to do with people. My director asked me to assemble a working group to get the cupola off the ground. So my first real decision was about people. And we knew it needed to be people, plural, because no one's job title was IR manager. This is a picture of our library staff that was taken for the campus yearbook recently, and I put it here because I'd like to encourage you to think about your entire library staff as the pool for your committee. A lot of people think of the IR as a database, and they think that technical skills are the most relevant ones. Technical skills are relevant, so is knowledge of copyright, but I contend that communication skills are the most important. So think about who on your staff already has relationships with authors, with administrators, with students. Who's good at talking with them? Is it your instruction librarians? Is it liaison librarians? You might be surprised at how you staff your IR initiative. If you're just getting started, consider that it's relatively easy to put stuff in the IR. It's more challenging to convince authors and stakeholders that they should. Here's an illustration of that challenge. The very first works we put in the cupola were student works. We thought it would be simpler to post student work than faculty work because of the copyright issues. Now, for the record, I don't really think that anymore. They both have their issues, but that's how we got started. And we were eager to capture the works that were presented at Celebration 2012 in May of 2012. But as we began talking with Celebration organizers and faculty members, we realized we needed to proceed with caution. Professors and administrators both had concerns. Some of them were worried that the work presented at Celebration wasn't really good enough. It was okay for a face-to-face presentation, but it wasn't good enough to be on the web permanently and publicly associated with Gettysburg College. On the other end of the scale, some work they felt was so good that it should be submitted to peer-reviewed journals, and professors thought that having it in the cupola could jeopardize the student author's chances of having it published. And some undergraduate research, especially in the sciences, is so intertwined with a long-range faculty research agenda that it can't be released when the student's part is over. So I heard a lot about concerns about being scooped. Faculty members didn't want their data out there to be scooped by a grad student at some other university before they were ready. So we had this Goldilocks dilemma. Some work wasn't good enough, some was too good. What was just right? The bottom line is that we realized we were not going to be able to include all of the celebration work in the cupola. That was our initial vision. We realized that we would need to work very closely with faculty to identify the appropriate student work and to get the supervising professor's approval before posting it. And we also realized that there was a need for just basic information about the repository and about open access publishing. So here we are again, back at the communication theme. Everything hinges on this at Gettysburg. We've experimented with quite a few variations on this theme, so I'm going to share some of those with you today. As we began to think about celebration, we knew we'd have to convince students to share their work and also convince faculty that it would be beneficial to the student authors and to the institution to share that work. So we began differentiating our message from the very start, and this is one of the first places that we did it. This is a LibGuide. We used the main tab to explain the IR and open access. There's also an RSS feed in the top left corner that displays the latest content that's been added. We have tabs for faculty, for students, for librarians, and the message varies quite a lot across those pages. Here's an example of a differentiated message. This is the author benefits box. I hope you can tell to whom these are directed. The one on the left is for faculty, the one on the right is for students. The student presentation is simpler and it uses less formal language. The faculty presentation includes some things that students would never care about, like funder requirements. I'm sharing this slide because it shows how we had to keep tinkering with our communications to get better results. These are email subject lines. When I first started emailing students to get them to submit their work, I wasn't getting a very high response rate, so I changed the subject line. It had been the rather generic invitation to submit to the cupola, and I made it more pointed and personal. So now it's Professor so-and-so wants to publish your something in the cupola. I also started copying the professor who nominated the student, and this often results in a reply all message in which the professor encourages the student to take care of this right away. I'm getting a lot more student works in the cupola now. Here's another evolution in communication. Very early in our planning, we decided that a print piece would be useful. We wanted something we could hand out at new faculty orientation, that we could take to meetings, that we could leave a stack of in the provost's office waiting area. Lots of IRs were making brochures, so we too created a very conventional looking trifold brochure. But then, after our first full year of adding content to the cupola, we realized that we could present information in a more visually compelling way. We took some of the data that we had collected for our annual report and we reframed it for faculty and college administrator audiences. This piece on the upper right is about a year old now. We've just come to the end of our fiscal year, so we will be doing another one in the next couple of weeks. As I thought about how to deliver our message more effectively, I often tried to answer the "what's in it for me" question. This slide is from a meeting with the faculty in the Environmental Studies Department, and you can see that I customized it to show how the Google search rankings treat one of our professors' publications. So in addition to meeting with departments when they'll have me on their agendas, I've had a lot of other interactions with people about the cupola. Frankly, I have a lot of sidewalk chats, or I've heard about work that students are doing and then I approach the professor about using the cupola as a venue to share it. Or I see announcements on campus email about prizes awarded to students and I track down the professors and the students involved. I've done this enough that I feel completely comfortable articulating the benefits of open access, and I can adapt my chat to any circumstance. But as enthusiastic as I am not everywhere. And frankly, I'm a little suspicious of initiatives that over-rely on a single person because they're just not sustainable. Which is why we've made quite an effort to educate the entire library staff about open access and about the cupola. We like to use the word ambassadors, and all of our librarian liaisons, who are pictured here, liaisons to academic departments, have been deputized as ambassadors. So this means that we have regular briefings 2 or 3 times a year to make sure that everyone shares a foundational knowledge of open access and the cupola, and that they're prepared to talk with potential authors on the fly, at least at an introductory level. I would go one step further and say that every single library employee should have a working knowledge of this important service. Your IR is just as key as your library catalog, as your special collections department, as your interlibrary loan service. It's a core service. Don't make it a backroom operation. Okay, I just zoomed way out and suggested that every library staff member can help promote your IR. Now let me zoom way in and show you how fun and satisfying it can be to connect with your stakeholders one by one. In addition to all these sidewalk chats that I have, I also send a lot of personal emails about the cupola. Once a month, BPress sends me a big picture report that includes the most downloaded items and some other kind of high-level statistics about the IR. I use this monthly email as a prompt to turn around and send out a short, upbeat message to our provost about activity in the cupola, and also to send some personal notes about specific works, which of course I copy the provost on. So this is one of those personal exchanges. So I emailed philosophy professor about a work of his that was one of the most popular. I pulled his total all-time downloads, and he was really into it. I know this is too much text for one slide, but I'm including it here just to give you a peek at the kinds of emails that college administrators love to receive. I feel like the amount of effort that goes into pulling this email together is far smaller than the benefit of having my administrators read this every month. It's important to keep the IR on the radar of the administration, and getting a cheerful missive about the success of your IR once a month is a great way to do that. Individuals really react to the personal touch. Remember those emails I was showing you between Professor DiNicola and I before? That was in October. He got hooked on his usage statistics and he started watching them really carefully. And I got this email from him 6 months later. He passed the 1,000 download mark. And so we turned around and tweeted his success. By the way, I pulled his download numbers again last week, and this publication has already topped 1,200 downloads. Oh, did I just say Twitter? It is exceedingly easy to promote your IR there. I pulled just a few tweets that have gone out on our library feed this month. You can see that they promote work by faculty and work by students. The very last tweet, the one with the arrow, is one that required no work at all on our part. We use Twitter feed to harvest links to new publications in the cupola, and we have it set up so it posts no more than once a day. So if we have a day when we post nothing in the cupola, you will see no auto tweet the next day. If we have a day when we post 50 things to the cupola, you'll still only see one auto tweet the next day. That's working well. Now, Twitter is strictly promotional because it's superficial, but we've also been crafting programs that are fundamentally educational. I'm an instruction librarian by training, so I love the opportunity to create programs like these. When we very first started educating our community about the cupola, we targeted specific groups. So I met with department chairs. I met with specific departments. I met with the provost's administrative staff. These were essentially private meetings. But later, we started offering programs and advertising them across campus so anyone could come. Here are a few of those. We've had a couple of these lunch and learn sessions. The format is there on the left. You can see that it's a small group because of the size of the room. These tend to attract a small audience, but a very lively, engaged group of people who is ready to talk about something. This is an example of a larger event. We have a venue on campus called Friday Faculty Lunch, and this is where professors present their research or other projects to a general audience. So we got a slot in that series, and we put together a panel of 3 faculty authors who have high participation in the cupola. So I opened the program, I introduced everybody, I talked about open access and the cupola generally. I shut up after 5 minutes, and then the panelists, who were carefully selected to represent disciplines across the humanities, social sciences, and sciences, responded to a series of questions. This program was attended by about 70 people, and we finally had to cut off conversation so everybody could get to their afternoon classes. I included this slide to remind us all that learning can be fun. These trivia questions were used at the Lunch and Learn we had about altmetrics. Now, when I teach an IL session, I try never to begin a class with a lecture module because the tone that is established during the first 5 minutes pervades the entire hour. And I approach a program with professors the exact same way. So we started with a handful of questions related to open access. These served as a warm-up to our topic, and they got people talking and thinking. and seeing what other people already knew or didn't know about the topic. Then I did my altmetrics presentation, and at the end, we reviewed the altmetrics content by asking another series of questions. And those mugs that you see there, those were the door prizes, and we gave those to people who got the most number of answers correct. The College Authors Reception is one of our largest programs. We've hosted this event with our Provost's office for over a decade. It's a firmly established tradition on campus. We honor and celebrate all the publications from the previous calendar year. So in 2013, our IR was still very new, and we wanted to use the reception to draw attention to it. So instead of listing all the previous year's publications on a website, as we had always done in years previous, we put the metadata into the cupola. Then we posted all the full text for which we could attain permissions. And at the party itself, we moved one of our big Mediascape units to the reception area and had a big screen version of the cupola up so people could interact with it. And most importantly, our provost devoted his remarks to open access publishing and the cupola. That's him on the left. At our 2014 reception earlier this semester, we put the OA logo on all the publications that had the full text in the cupola. That's the logo in the upper right. There are physical copies of the year's articles, books, and book chapters on display around the room. You can see them on the tables with the red cloths there. So it was pretty easy to add the logo to some of them. This drew more attention, and it generated questions about how faculty who didn't have the logo could get the logo. And in the end, a little more than half of these faculty publications are available, full content, all open in the cupola. So I started by promising to talk about what to put in an IR, as well as how to promote it and educate users about it. And I've said far more about the latter than the former, so let's loop back. Content in an IR is like a snowball. It's kind of hard to get started, but it's easier and easier the more you add to it. The more you talk about the IR, the more content you get. The more content you get, the more you talk about the IR. So our idea of what belongs in the cupola has expanded a lot over the past years. Remember, on the faculty side, we started with the classic publications as the core: articles, chapters, books. But now we're going beyond those to include other forms of scholarship, such as conference presentations, blog posts, opinion pieces, recorded lectures. You can upload them or stream them or both. This is an example of an embedded streaming widget in our IR. Even open educational resources. We just published our first true OER, which is a lab manual about designing digital circuits. It was by one of our computer science faculty. On the student side, we thought that we would put in a lot of research papers, but the more comfortable faculty became with the cupola, the more open they were to sharing other types of works. So in addition to capstone projects and senior theses, we now have several journals, all of which are edited and produced by undergraduates. We have music scores, we have audio essays, photographs, student-curated art exhibits, student-created art, blog posts. We have all kinds of stuff. We've been working with the art gallery director to archive exhibit catalogs from her gallery. We've also started posting certain library publications rather than just sharing them on our website, which is what we'd done before. Here you see the library newsletter and our annual summer reading booklet. We find that the search engine optimization that the bPress platform brings us makes these publications far more discoverable than they were before, and readers are definitely finding them. I'll give you some numbers. The 2013 edition of You've Gotta Read This, which was posted almost exactly 1 year ago, has been downloaded over 2,000 times. The 2014 edition, which is pictured here, has been up exactly 1 month, and it already has nearly 300 downloads. For the library newsletter, we have all of our back issues up. There are 25 issues in all, and together they've been downloaded nearly 5,000 times. So where are we now? About a month ago, we celebrated our second birthday. What you see there is a banner ad that was on the library homepage, and you can see the statistics that we shared with our campus community at that point. Well, I just pulled download reports again this week, and the numbers are going up really quickly. We now have over 1,400 works with about 70,000 downloads. This is the snowball effect that I was talking about. The more you get, the more you get. Which brings us back to our title, If You Build It, They Will Come. It has been our experience at Gettysburg that both authors and readers will come to an IR if you build it. You do need to work carefully with authors and other stakeholders to make sure the benefits of open access publishing are communicated clearly, but they will come. Thank you.